Hello everybody and welcome back to another EPO video. Let's talk about the House of Representatives, which, to the surprise of many, was even more of a disaster for the Democratic Party than the US Senate. The consensus heading into election night was that the Democrats would gain anywhere from 5 to 10 seats across the country. This assumption was supported by overwhelming evidence in the form of polling averages. According to 538, Democrats led by 7.3 points on a generic congressional ballot nationwide. For reference, in the 2018 midterms, when Democrats won control of the House, gaining 41 seats in the process, they led by 8.7 points in the same polling average. So there was only a 1.4 point difference between 2018 and 2020. If we were to go by RCP though, Democrats led by 6.8 points, which is just half a point lower than on 538. But as you can see in the end result, it was outside of the margin of error at D plus 1.9. The same average from the 2018 midterms had Democrats ahead 7.3 points. So there was only a half point deviation between the RCP average between these last two elections. And not only that, but given that Joe Biden led by as much as he did nationwide, it was entirely plausible that the Democrats would pick up a number of seats once again. But that simply was not the case. As things stand right now, the Democrats hold 218 seats, which is just enough for a majority, and the Republicans hold 203. This is the result of a net 7-seat gain for the GOP, as Democrats have flipped just 3 seats to their 10. However, that is according to the New York Times, but Decision Desk HQ is a little ahead and has Democrats at 219, 2 Republicans at 205. Either way, that leaves 11 to 14 seats still uncalled between these two sources, and Republicans lead in most of them. But in today's video, we are going to use the Cook Political Report, which I happen to find specifically is the most reliable source for House races. They have Democrats at 221 and Republicans at 207. That leaves just 7 seats uncalled, which allows me to get a little bit more specific with my projections for each of them. In alphabetical order by state, there are 2 races in California still too close to call, the 21st and 25th districts. In the 21st, Democratic incumbent TJ Cox is in deep trouble against the former congressman in the district before 2018, David Valadao. He currently leads by a little over 2,000 votes, and the latest batches of mail-in votes over the last few days don't appear to be enough to close that gap. The current EP projection is that Valadao unseats the incumbent, raising the Republicans' total to 208. As for the 25th district, it is way too close to call to make a projection with any kind of confidence. This was Congresswoman Katie Hill's seat before she resigned, and as political nerds know, Republican Mike Garcia defeated Democrat Christy Smith in the special election here a few months ago. But he had to defend his lead in this election, and as of right now, Garcia leads by just 104 votes. That is with almost 350,000 votes in, and the margin is just over 100. It's really remarkable, and it equates to an exact 50 to 50% split. If I had to make a guess in one direction, I would give it to Garcia just because there is more vote outstanding out of the redder Ventura area than in LA, but it is effectively a coin flip. However, if we do give that seat to the Republican incumbent, the Republicans' total rises to 209. Another race that is even closer right now, Iowa's 2nd District, where Republican Marionette Miller Meeks leads Democratic incumbent Rita Hart by just 47 votes. There will most definitely be a recount conducted, and we could possibly see these results flip in either direction. However, if Rita Hart does end up losing, that would mean that Iowa's House delegation will flip from 3-1 in the Democrats' favor to 3-1 for the Republicans, as Ashley Hinson has already flipped the 1st district. My own prediction is that Marionette Miller Meeks will flip this seat into the Republican column, which would be the 3rd straight Republican seat and it brings them up to 210, only 11 seats behind the Democrats, which is a very narrow margin, and one that should be very uncomfortable for Nancy Pelosi, but more on that later. Next on the list is New Jersey's 7th District, which was solidly in the lean Democratic column coming into this election, but as of right now, Democratic incumbent Tom Malinowski has a 4,000 vote lead, but it is very much in danger. Roughly 32,000 votes are still outstanding, and they are expected to favor Republican challenger Thomas Keene by a large margin. I would honestly rather be Keene than Malinowski at this point, which is something I never really anticipated to be saying. But the vote just is not there for Malinowski to be confident in his re-election chances as of right now. Realistically, all Keene has to do is win about 58 to 59% of what is out there, and that is mostly Republican counties mixed with provisional ballots that should favor him by even more. So if we chalk this up as another Republican flip, the Democrats' lead falls to just 10 seats at 221 to 211. Two of the final three races to cover are in New York, neither of which look very positive in the slightest for the Democratic Party. In the 2nd District, this was Republican Peter King's seat before he announced his retirement. His successor, Andrew Garbarino, currently leads Democrat Jackie Gordon by 43,000 votes. The only reason this race has not been called is that there are a lot of outstanding absentee ballots in the greater New York City area that won't be tallied until next week. In this district specifically, there are about 66,000. So we can all but expect that this race will be called for Garbarino at some point, cutting the Dems' national lead to single digits. Then in New York's 22nd, a lot of sources have already called this race for Claudia Tenney, the Republican who held this seat prior to Democrat Anthony Brindisi unseating her in 2018. Currently, she leads by about 10 points, but it is likely to end up around 2 to 3 points when all of the votes are in. That also makes it 6 of 7 races uncalled that I project will go to the Republicans, and it brings them to 213 seats in the House. Finally, we have Utah's 4th Congressional District. This one had a lot of national hype coming in, but it has been called by most sources already. Republican Burgess Owens has unseated one-term Democrat Ben McAdams. Owens has already been congratulated and recognized as the congressman-elect for the most part, and that makes it 7 out of 7 seats in which there is no call, but will most likely go to the Republican column. And that means that the final House tally will be 221 for Democrats and 214 for the GOP. That is incredibly narrow, a lot more narrow than it was ever expected to be, and it means that the Democrats have lost 14 seats from the 235 they held after 2018, and the Republicans have made up 15 seats from the 199 they held after 2018 as well. No matter how you look at it, this is very bad for the Democratic Party in the present, and definitely in the future with the 2022 midterms coming up a lot sooner than you would think. Obviously, the Trump campaign's message of forming the entire Democratic Party under this socialist agenda paid off astronomically, and personally, I believe that Nancy Pelosi should not keep her job as Speaker of the House because there is really no justifiable reason as to why the Democrats lost this many seats in an election where they unseated the incumbent Republican president. Personally, I believe that it has a lot to do with the unpopularity of Speaker Pelosi, and there are reports out there as well that she does not have the votes to retain her speakership, which could be very interesting, and I wonder who the Democrats might nominate instead. While that remains to be seen, the 117th Congress is going to be unlike anything we have ever seen, with some of the characters elected in these elections. I hope you all enjoyed this little analysis and prediction for the House of Representatives though. If you did, please make sure to like the video and subscribe down below if you haven't already. Also, check out more content from my channel here. Thank you all so much for watching and tune in next time. EP out.